Buyer beware, you're in for a scare. If you didn't watch Goosebumps as a kid, you really did miss out. We all remember the first time you watched a real scary movie as a child. If you didn't, congratulate yourself for not being traumatized. When it was dark outside, someone decided to fatefully play your first real horror experience that would leave you with nightmares for a week, and depending on how dark that movie or show was, you might even think you're really seeing things go bump in the night. I know in my heart that I wasn't the only 7-year-old on Earth who watched 13 Ghosts because my older brother put it on, and was haunted by the angry princess for months. If you are anything like us, then those experiences got you hooked on the genre for life. And for a lot of people growing up in the 90s, The Haunted Mask was one of those very first horror experiences. The first episode of Goosebumps television series is without a doubt a classic, and a wonderful entry in the children's horror genre. The Haunted Mask is a gem that's rarely mentioned nowadays. And that's a shame because it manages to pull off being both kid-friendly and genuinely spooky for what it is. So buckle up, kids, we've got another good one for you.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Hello, I'm R.L. Stine. I write the Goosebumps books.
R.L. Stine is a mastermind. He knew all too well how to craft a story to scare the kiddos. Originally writing humor books for kids, his editor suggested to him that he should try his luck with horror. After a dozen or so selling modestly, one day in 1994 it took off, and his series was selling over $4 million a month. He quickly became one of the best-selling children's authors of all time, only being eclipsed by a handful of others. With the growing popularity of the brand, it was only a matter of time for a TV show to get the green light. And who would be trusted to bring our stories to life?
The master of kid suspense, R.L. Stine, brings your favorite books to life in a thrilling Fox Kids television series. Things are not always what they appear to be. Goosebumps on Fox Kids Fridays after Batman and Robin.
Goosebumps premiered on October 27, 1995, breaking over 14 million viewers on Fox and selling over 500,000 VHS copies in its first week of release. That's a pretty big deal for a kids show, so let's see what all this fuss is about.
With a quick introduction from the author, this episode kicks off with Carly, Beth, and Sabrina walking down the street and finding a knockoff Party City store just sprung up out of nowhere in this town, the Novelty Shop. We see a Walmart version of Robert Englund looking at them through the glass, but we will learn more about this shade ball later. Carly, Beth, and her friend are out looking for a pumpkin. They head to an abandoned pumpkin patch. She's interrupted by two psychos with a grade 8 level patients coming up out of the ground to scare her. Not that it matters, but you were probably covered in bugs, kid. Go home and take a shower. With the attack of the jack-o'-lanterns out of the way, we meet Chuck and Steve, two bullies who are always picking on our girl, Carly Beth. She complains to her friend about how they only pick on her. Her friend replies telling her she's a scaredy cat and it's just an easy target for them to scare. After a couple Canadian sorries, Carly Beth tells Sabrina this is the year that she's finally going to scare Chuck and Steve. Carly Beth arrives home where her mom shows Carly a head sculpture she's been working on. It's Carly Beth's head. It's extremely creepy, and her mother doesn't seem to realize that. Her mom must also have nothing but free time on her hands because she reveals a duck costume she made for her as well. Carly Beth, seeing this bright fluffy yellow suit as not the right costume for her plans to scare Chuck and Steve. Holy shit, did that thing just smile at me? On a technical level, we now know there's magic afoot. Keep that in mind for later.
We cut to a shot of kids outside eating, which is an awesome place to have lunch at in school. Chuck and Steve bully Carly Beth some more by pretending to apologize, secretly slipping worms into her sandwich. Pretty cruel, boys, but A1 for creativity. Anyway, she runs away and cries because she's embarrassed by everyone laughing at her. These kids are terrorists, by the way, every single one of them. She makes it home where she destroys the duck costume because teenage girl temper tantrum. She then vows her revenge. She counts her small stash from her babysitting money and heads to the store we saw earlier. After walking around the store for a full minute, the shopkeeper finally notices her. He has a full-blown Romanian accent, claiming the shop is closed despite the door being unlocked. He gets a call from his baby mama drama and tells Carly Beth to find a mask quickly. After seeing the collection up front sucks, she makes her way to the back of the house where we get 6 creepy-looking masks. Carly Beth is instantly hooked on the best-looking one, just how I was when I was a little kid. A well-made green lizard-esque creature, and before touching it, the man shouts,
I said no.
Only he isn't saying this just to her. He knows they are cursed. The masks all move with 90s low-budget CGI, but you know, fuck you, it's a kid's show. He says he's sorry, but these masks are not for sale, because they're just too frightening. She tells him that frightening is just what she needs, and the green one would be perfect. She wants revenge on the bullies, and he seems to understand that at first. He then puts his hand on her shoulder, saying she has a nice face. Ominously, he says, "I don't think you can take the responsibility." But she isn't listening. She offers him $30, and he tells her to leave, but she runs around him and snatches the mask anyway and makes it rain with her money while sprinting out the door. She makes it halfway onto the street until she realizes that this isn't her character, but before she can return it, he slams the door and closes up the shop. She puts the mask on for the first time, and we get a POV shot, much like the classic 1978 Halloween opening kill. This mask looks pretty great for a kids show, and it's genuinely creepy. It's always been one I've wanted to own, but store-like quality has kept me away from it. Her brother is a Spidey because I'm convinced the mom is just a wino at this point. She sets up her brother to be her first victim, finally turning the tables. Revenge is sweet. However, he pleads for her to take it off, and she tries, but it's a little stuck. The mask appears to slightly morph. After wrestling with it, she finally gets it off. He asks how she changed her voice, claiming that was the scariest part. It indeed was not the scariest part. Not even close. She puts it on again, but this time the mask sinks into her face. She grabs a broomstick and gets some head before her mom calls her. With the save from a call, she's off like a freak in the night.
Donning her mom's sculpture on the broom, literally and symbolically, her head on a stake, she's roaming the streets, scaring just about anyone in sight. She's clearly having a good time, almost as if the mask is acting upon her.
Yeah, I'm crazy, alright, I'm crazy!
She meets up with Sabrina the teenage cat, proving even in the 90s girls dressed up as cats. At least it's not a slutty one. She tells her friend the head she's carrying is who she used to be, refusing to elaborate. They go off looking for her bullies. Sabrina asks to touch the mask, telling her it feels like real skin. Sabrina decides to keep asking Carly Beth a ton of questions, and that causes Carly to freak out and choke a bitch. This only being a 30-minute episode, we get our first to be continued of the series on our screen, as we fade right into the Goosebumps goo. As we come back, it's revealed Carly Beth was only kidding, of course, letting her friend go. She tells her she's sorry, she's just trying to stay in character. Theater kids, man, dedicated to their craft. They make it to their first house, where a little girl is scared of the mask. Carly Beth, being the good-hearted girl she is, calms the little girl down.
You better watch what you say to me if you know it's good for you.
Holy shit, never mind, she's gone full dark side now. The mom tells Sabrina to get to steppin' or she's calling the police. Sabrina asks why Carly Beth is being this way tonight, to which Carly Beth tries to explain it's not her, it's the mask's fault. Sabrina is curious what she means, but before she can get more of an explanation, Carly Beth runs off. It's as if Carly Beth is aware of what's happening to her, but has been convinced not to care. Possible possession never even crosses her mind.
As Carly Beth continues scaring anyone in sight, we cut to the cemetery, where Chuck and Steve are goofing around, dressed as pirates eating their candy. As they go further into the cemetery, little do they know Carly Beth has tracked them down, creeping up behind them. The two see her, instantly getting spooked, asking who's under the mask. Carly Beth tells them,
"We've been looking for you,"
referring to herself in the head. Speaking in third person, she tells them in a PG way she basically decapitated Carly Beth and put her head on a stick, causing the boys to drop to their knees in fear. She wants them to apologize to her head for everything they've done to her. The mask's personality is now fully in play. They do, saying they only did it because they actually like her. Really, my dudes, is that why you made her eat worms?
"Please help me."
The head is now talking, causing Carly Beth to drop it in front of the two boys, making them run out of this movie. The mask's effects appear to radiate beyond just Carly Beth, the supernatural elements animating the head, as though her soul was now traveling alongside her. However, she seems to instantly forget this traumatizing moment, literally howling at the moon, and decides to bury this demonic head, obviously symbolizing Carly Beth burying her old self in favor of the mask taking over. Her actions appear animalistic, with growls and all. She dances back to civilization and gets reunited with Sabrina. She tells her friend she finally got even with Chuck and Steve, and they can go home to celebrate with candy. Sabrina, in her stupid costume, counts her candy earnings, as Carly Beth tries to get the mask off her. Only, surprise, surprise, the mask won't come off. Sabrina tries to help too, but can't find the bottom of the mask to rip off. This is painful for her. Carly Beth goes to see for herself in the mirror, and realizes the mask has merged into her skin seamlessly. Merging down past her neck, the mask has taken over. And this is even more evident when she notices the eyes staring back at her are not her own. She runs out of the house in terror. She instantly puts two and two together and arrives back at the store she bought it from. Opening the door, Fred Kroger here has been waiting for her to return. After her pleading, he tells her that he cannot remove the mask. She asks what's going on, and he tells her everything. Turns out he is the maker of these masks, and they aren't actually masks. They're real faces. He made them with the sole purpose of hiding his faults. They weren't always this ugly, they were beautiful, but the problem was they got attached to his faults, reflecting who he was on the inside. So it's not always about what you look on the outside. It's your personality that counts. Pretty good lesson for a kids show, honestly. Except for the fact that just because someone's ugly, that doesn't make them... Never mind. Benefit of the doubt, I guess. Anyway, he refers to these masks as...
I call them the unloved ones. Because no one will ever love them now.
Except for you, Carly Beth. Through its hideousness, she fell in love with the idea of revenge. He sees that she is just a scared little girl and tells her there's a chance of stopping the mask from fully taking over. He says only a symbol of love can break the bond. We didn't mention before that part of this man's face appears to be infected, changing. He reveals that the face he is wearing is just another mask, and that it too is turning monstrous, hinting that what lies below is even worse than his creations. Before he can say more, the masks wake up. In a nightmare fuel shot for kids, they start chasing Carly Beth out the store. The floating CGI is a bit hilarious today, but you know, it's 1995, and not everything can match Starship Troopers.
They follow her the whole way to the cemetery, calling out to her. It's almost sad. All the heads really want is someone to hold them in a way. Carly Beth, thinking they're being clingy, starts to dig her head out of the dirt. She waves it around, saying this is who she is. She's not a monster. She's just a teenage girl. The masks, seeing this, vanish into thin air, and Carly Beth is able to tear her mask off. How, you may ask?
A symbol of love.
Her mother's sculpture she made for her. In some twisted sense, this has caused her to love herself. Another thing we didn't mention earlier that bears a thought. When the shop owner tells Carly Beth that you can't handle the responsibility, he is seemingly implying that the corruption of the mask has an effect that surpasses just that of the wearer. It's as if they are not just magical masks that change based on personality of the wearer, but actual beings of their own who will suffer because of it. After all, the mask did call out to her with a mind of their own. This shop owner must have attended the Romanian version of Hogwarts or something along those lines, because that's some mage level talent. Are we overanalyzing a kid's show? Yes, but it's details like these that really do make things interesting. Moving back to the story. Carly Beth arrives home to hug her alcoholic mother, telling her she loves her for basically saving her life tonight. Little does this little girl know she's in a Goosebumps story, and it being the premiere, we need a trademark dark ending. And this dark ending is Carly Beth's little brother, Noah, donning the mask to show his sister, causing her problems to start all over again. The Haunted Mask was the first to air in a 74 episodic series. Thank God, because although I love this series, even as an adult, there are only a handful of episodes I can watch today. If this episode didn't deliver, it would have got canned, just like Fear Street's pilot did. As weird as this is gonna sound, something so small like a horror children Canuck show would have possibly changed my love for horror. So thank you, R.L. Stine, for my love with all things horror. And best believe when a new Goosebumps show comes around, because everything gets a remake nowadays, I will be watching just like I was when I was a kid, with my bowl of cereal ready to relive my childhood all over again.
Carly Beth, that's why I scare her.